Shalom Alaikum. Yes, this is a master teacher, Apostle T.E., sitting in the captain's seat for the one, the apostle, the prophet. Yes, the one. Listen, we welcome you to the truth session today. It's going to be a powerful session. Of course, I'm always excited about it. It's always an excited time when I can stand in the captain's stead while he's on location. And listen, we welcome you. We want to say, Assalamu alaikum, Abargani, Inhotep, Amani Kaka, Amani Dada, Bonjour, Hola. Listen, we welcome you. We welcome you to the truth session. Once again, this is your very own master teacher, Apostle T.E., coming at you live and in living color with 2,400 watts of power in this hour. Listen, we hope that you've had a safe and awesome holiday season. We know that you're out with family, doing things with immediate family, extended family. But we hope that all is well and you're ready to get back in the saddle and make it happen today. Listen, we're going to be talking about a very, very powerful topic, talking about, once again, trauma. And our subject today is trauma, from retrograde to retrofit. Listen, we're just going to pick up from where the one left off and deal with some things that tie into what the one was talking about on last truth session and just build from there. Listen, it is a powerful, powerful time for us to download this information because it's coming at us left and right. Listen, it's coming from the top. It's coming from the bottom. It's coming from the side. Listen, whichever way you can turn and revolve and evolve and rotate. Listen, this information is coming and I'm excited about it because it's doing something for me. It's doing something for me. Listen, when I'm preparing this, when I'm studying this, when I'm meditating upon it and giving myself wholly to it, that my profiting may appear to all. Listen, it's doing something for my own self, my own psyche. And so I'm getting something as I am delivering it, as I am preparing it. And that's a good thing. Listen, it hits you first and then it spreads abroad. Listen, my excitement now is the same excitement when I'm preparing it. This information is good to me and I love delivering it unto you. And listen, as we prepare to go into this truth session, listen, hit that share button. Call somebody. Text somebody. Listen, if you got to walk next door to your neighbor, get this information out. We need it. We're not just doing this on a whim, not fortuitously given unto you, but we need it in this hour that it may empower us. And listen, let me go ahead and get myself set up as you populate. Prepare for the truth session. Again, trauma, from retrograde to retrofit. We see our very own Sister KD in the house. Power, power. Come on here. Yes. And listen, don't forget to tell us where you're hailing from. Our very own elder, Billy Harris, is in the house. Shalom, welcome. Our very own Elder Gibbs, come on, talk to us today. She said, greetings, families. South Carolina in the house. Got our very own Sister Rhonda Moore, hailing from Bowie, Maryland. Check on here on this other side. Of course, there's a slight delay in some aspects here, but we'll definitely get to you. Come on and hit those emojis as we prepare to populate. Come on, let's hit those thumbs up, the hearts. And listen, I like to have the laughter out there as well because it's good to our souls.
Come on, let's laugh again. Come on, let's flow again. Come on, let's love again. Now that you're up, stay up. Stay up. Now that you're up, stay up. Stay. Now that you're up, stay up. Stay. Now that you're up, stay up. Come on, let's flow again. Yeah. Now that you're up, stay up. Stay up. Now that you're up, stay up. Stay up. Come on, let's flow again. Ooh, let's live again. Let your heart be free again. No more drama, no more drama. Let your heart flow again. Let your heart be free again. No more drama, no more drama. Let your heart flow again. Now that you're
Listen, once again, it's your very own master teacher, Apostle T.E., coming at you with 2,400 watts of power in this hour. Listen, we're getting ready to get into some things here. And once again, it's always an honor to stand before you and deliver this information. We don't take your Saturdays, your time for granted, nor lightly. We understand how precious it is. Listen, once time is gone, we can't get it back. So we don't waste time. We don't devalue time. We embrace it. And we have regard for it because it serves us. And listen, we're going to talk about some things here. And I want to go back and reiterate once again the title, the subject. And let's put that on the timeline so those who may come in a little later, they'll be able to see it. But we're talking about trauma from retrograde to retrofit. And we're going to talk about some things here that are very powerful. Just give me a second here. Put this on.
let your heart be free again. Let your heart be free again. Now that you're up, no more drama, no more drama. Now that you're up, ooh, let's flow again.
We'll give the family a few more minutes to give an opportunity to populate.
Let's flow again.
Oh, and then we're going to get started.
Like a mighty rushing river, let's dance again. Ooh, let's dance again. No more drama, no more. Let's go again. Let's go again. No more drama, no more drama. No more drama.
All right, listen, before we begin, listen, go ahead and hit that share button one more time. Let's go ahead and launch it right now and start this energy moving. Hit that share button. All right, listen, I want to start out real quickly by quoting from the One. He said back in 2015, never forget this. He said, we're living in a time when things have come out of bond. And that was during the series with all energy come from the same source. And that was part 7. He said, we're living in a time where things have come out of bond. And listen, right now, that same quote applies to what's going on right now. Listen, you have to be careful when you're dealing with trauma that you don't come out of bond. You don't come out of a place where the Almighty One has placed you, a place where you can get your healing, a place where you can understand what trauma is all about and how to navigate around and navigate through it, how to hit it head on. And so in today's society, if I can say it like that, listen, you're taught to come out of bond. You're taught to walk away from relationships. You're taught to be an individual. Listen, there's no way you can be an individual living in today's society. You will need someone that's close to you, someone that's going to help you navigate through this, someone who's got more information from you, even if you go into, as the One always clarifies it, as a symbiotic relationship. Let me go in and get what I need and then I can back out of it. Listen, I can't be a fireman. I can't be an engineer. I can't be a teacher. I can't be a mailman. I can't be all of that at one time, which means somewhere along the line, I'm going to need somebody. And so we're placed in lives of people who can help succeed us, help us with our success to the next level. And oftentimes we end up coming out of bond with them. And so we come out of bond because of trauma, because of thoughts that have been interjected or injected into our thought capacities. Somebody might have accessed our data bank, accessed our memory, and put us in a place of confusion. Confusion, contact or fused with a thing that has no business in our lives. And so you have to be careful that you don't yourself cause the pressure of trauma to push you in a place of vacuum. It's the pressures. We're going to talk about that here in a second. But watch this. He said, we're living in a time where things have come out of bond. And let me just put this definition. I want to put this definition on the timeline and some other things because I want to put it in your eye gates. I want you to see this and see exactly what I'm talking about. This information will be under the teacher will appear. Listen, when the students are ready, guess what? The teacher will appear. And I believe you're ready for this information. If you can see that, go ahead and hit those thumbs up. Give me that emoji real quickly. Show me some love. I see that our brother, Noble One, Brother Craig Leverett, has joined us in the house. Welcome, welcome. Gratitude that you can be with us. Watch what it says. It's a definition of the word bond. And we're talking about things coming out of bond. And remember, from retrograde to retrofit. Watch this. To join or be joined securely to something else, especially by means of an adhesive substance, heat or pressure. Wait a minute. If you recall, if you go back, I talked about the vacuum situation, whereas it's the pressure that causes the vacuum, not a suction. It's the pressure. So now if you look at it, we've come out of bond because of pressure. Out of bond because of pressure. It says here that bond causes you to securely fasten yourself to something by means of adhesive substance, heat, or pressure. So now, if we're in bond because of pressure, we actually can come out of bond because of pressure or because of the vacuum theory. The vacuum idea. Watch this. It also means to join or to be joined by a chemical bond. Now, let's look at this. Our brains are made up of electrical pulses and what? They're made up chemically, right? So now we actually can come out of bond chemically with those who we're supposed to be connected with. There's always an electrical or chemical reaction. And so because of the pressures of trauma, we actually come out of bond with them chemically. In other words, we don't have the same thought processes. Pressures will pull us away. And again, you have to look at trauma for what it is and deal with it based on the information that you've been given or that you have. And so we can allow people to actually snatch that chemical connection from us. So those substances that we get chemically, we actually can begin to dilute them or rid ourselves from them. So now we know that if based on trauma, based on our thought processes, we actually release toxins into our bodies. Stress can cause us to release toxins in our body. So those are chemical reactions. So now trauma or attaching yourself to the wrong entity or the wrong people can also throw you off chemically. It can give you a chemical imbalance. So now instead of benefiting from the retrograde and the retrofit, it pushes you further in a place of trauma. So watch this. Let me go to another definition real quickly. Let's talk about the chemical aspect of it. If you can see that, give me those thumbs up. We're talking about bond. All right, watch this. Under the chemical aspect of bonding, it says an attractive force that holds together the atoms, ions, or groups of atoms in a molecule or crystal, an adhesive, cementing material or fusible ingredient that combines, unites, or strengthens. Under masonry, to lap a building material such as brick for solidity or construction, or I can say for solidarity, another form of the word. So now let's look at this. So as a chemical bond, we can pull ourselves away, our molecular structure. We can detach from that chemical bond we've been given. We can detach from those ions and electrons. Listen, we all have that ability with valence electrons to go from place to place, to jump from place to place and be right there. Have our thoughts there, have our energy there. So we can come out of bond with that type of connection by what? Fusing or coming in contact or being confused with the wrong entity, the wrong people, the wrong thoughts. Listen, you have to be careful that people don't interject their insecurities, their thoughts into your thoughts, and you start acting them out. Listen, based on your insecurity, I'm not moving according to your insecurity. I'm not making my decisions based on your insecurity. Listen, I may acknowledge them, understand that what you may be dealing with, but I don't base my decisions on your insecurities because your insecurities don't fit me, don't fit my scheme of things. So some people will actually launch things toward you or at other entities or other things that you may be doing because they don't understand it. They don't understand it. And you know, misery loves company. So it'll cause you to connect to it. And as they say, there's strength in numbers. Although that's a fake form of strength, it still has a certain level of power. If you acknowledge it, if you entertain it, if you connect yourself with it, if you confuse yourself to it. Yes, I didn't say fuse, I said confuse. Because when you connect to something that's incorrect, there is confusion associated with it. There are unintended consequences, yet there will be overlaps. Watch this. It also says to combine, unite, or strengthen. Watch this other thing dealing with bond. Under masonry, it means to lap, such as bricks, for solidity of what? Construction. So now think about this. Notice the bricks are not just stacked on top of one another. How are they layered? They're overlapping, aren't they? For solid structural integrity. So if you just place the brick on top of one another, there's always a seam that can form and everything can come out of bond. But if you overlap them, guess what? It builds strength. It builds integrity. It causes you to build on something else. So that's why we overlap some of the material. Yes, the material overlaps. And as long as I've been walking with the one, guess what? He has had a common thread to everything he's talked about. Years and years and years of information I've received there's always been a common thread. Why? It overlaps. It's building integrity. It's building strength. He's building structural integrity. So now you can always verify his information with his other information. In the Latin, as the sacred text, it's called sola scriptura, which means scripture proving or scripture bearing scripture. In other words, there's a connection here or there. You can find somewhere else that will connect you to the information. Watch this. And boy, that's typical of the one. All right, let me bring in some other information real quickly. All right. Now let's talk about, I want to talk about retrograde. Let's go into retrograde real quickly. Give me a second here. Looks like my connection and my laptop want to be the late James and get up and do his thing. All right. Give me a second here while I restart mine. Looks like I have a connection here. You'll still be able to see us and hear us, but I'm just restarting my platform. Give me just a second here. All right, there we go. We're back up and running. All right, once again, we're talking about trauma from retrograde to retrofit. Watch this. Let's talk about retrograde real quickly. Let's put out some definitions and some information here. I'm going to put it in pieces so we can talk about it in chunks. All right. All right, go ahead and give me those thumbs up if you can see that again under the teacher will appear. Talking about retrograde. Watch this. Watch what it says. Retrograde motion is an apparent change. Oh, watch this. An apparent change in the movement of the planet through the sky. It is not real in that the planet does not physically start moving backwards in its orbit. It just appears to do so because of the relative positions of the planet and Earth and how they are moving around the sun. So watch this. So we're talking about retrograde here. Now we're also talking, keep in mind, we're talking about bonding, how we've come out of bond. But watch this. So retrograde, as it says here, it's an apparent motion that appears to be going in reverse based on a relative position near the sun and other planets. So now, if you look at it from a trauma perspective, we actually can go to a place of retrograde based on our position or how we view it. So now trauma itself doesn't just push you back to a place of retrograde. It's the pressures around it, and it's how you view it and how you move from that particular position. So watch, I'm going to give you an example of what I'm talking about. It says here that it is not real in that the planet does not physically start moving backwards in its orbit. It just appears to do so because the relative position of the planet and Earth and how they are moving around the sun. Now, how many of you have been sitting in your vehicle and you start moving, but yet another vehicle come up alongside of you and it goes a little faster? It appears that you're going backwards. Oh, I've done it before. I've been sitting in the vehicle and another vehicle will pass me and it appears that I'm actually moving backwards based on its relative position. Or I am getting ready to go in reverse and another vehicle come past speeding and it looks as if you're actually going backwards. That's the appearance of retrograde. So now if you connect it to, let's say, trauma, something happened that caused a traumatic experience, listen, it doesn't automatically send you in reverse. It doesn't automatically send you in retrograde. So what happens is the pressures that you don't deal with actually causes you to start walking backwards, start having backward movements. So what you've done is housed all of this negative information, all this negative energy, and it start a process of going backwards. You don't automatically start going backwards. So now your retrograde actually is the appearance of going in retrograde. I'll say it again. Your retrograde is not an automatic movement backwards. It's an appearance. It's other things that begin to move around you quickly, and you just begin to slow down. Watch this. Ever since I've known Brother JP, the prophet, the one, the minister of music, listen, he has always said, man, listen, the only thing we can do is keep moving. If we slow down, things that we've already passed, we've already dealt with, will catch up with us. Man, he was right on point. So that's talking about retrograde. He has always talked about that. Keep moving. No matter what, keep moving. Keep moving. So what happens is when we begin to slow down or stop ourselves, other things are moving at a rapid pace. It looks like we're going in retrograde. No, it's the pressures that's pushing us to a place where sometimes we're cemented, where we don't move. So now it looks like we're going backwards. Listen, I don't care if you're moving at a snail pace. You're still moving forward. You're still moving to a place where you're progressing. You're being progressive. You're advancing. When you start walking backwards based on what somebody else has said, what somebody else has done, somebody has dangled before you, have dangled a carrot before you, listen, you've moved to a place of retrograde. Not just based on your experiences. Watch this. Let me drop some other information on you. I see Pastor Hauser is in the house. Greetings. All right. Brother JP, yes, the one is dropping the fire on the timeline. Yes, keep moving. Listen, everybody put on the timeline, keep moving. You see under Brother JP Hall, keep moving. Everybody put on the timeline, keep moving. I'm going to put it on there myself. Very important. That's causing the retrograde. That's causing the vacuum, because everything else is trying to push its way into your space. We talked about that. The pressures are trying to push their way into your space. But if you keep moving, listen, that energy that you're creating, the momentum actually causes your wind, your air to do what? Become a tailwind. It's in the back. All right, watch this. Another piece. I'll give you this in. All right, watch this. Normally the planets move west to east through the stars at night. This is referred to as prograde or prograde motion. However, periodically the motion changes and they move east to west through the stars. We call this retrograde motion. The retrograde motion continues for a short time and then the motion switches back to prograde. This seemingly strange behavior is easily understood within the context of sun-centered or heliocentric solar system. The explanation for the retrograde motion in a heliocentric motion or model is that retrograde occurs roughly when faster moving planet catches up to you and passes a slower moving planet. You see that? So a faster moving planet catches up to and passes a slower moving planet. So did the slower moving planet stop moving? No, it's just moving at a slower pace. So based on what you've experienced, because you're moving at a slower pace, doesn't mean that you're in retrograde. Now watch this. There are times that retrograde, as we've been talking about, listen, time to go back and reflect, time to go back and gather in those things. That's what they're there for. I'm talking about at a time when we're actually in our space where we've retreated in our minds. The retrograde I'm talking about is the retreatism that we sometimes experience or sometimes willfully experience. Why? Because the responsibilities are too heavy. So we would rather retreat or go in retrograde rather than face it head on, be responsible, and do those things necessary to get to that next level of who we are or to the next one of ourselves. But watch this. It says the explanation for the retrograde motion is in a heliocentric model is that the retrograde occurs roughly when a faster moving planet catches up to and passes a slower moving planet. Once again, it didn't say the slower moving planet start going in reverse. It's an appearance. Just like the time we talked about how it appears, during the eclipse. How you look at, where did this eclipse come from? It looked like the moon is much larger than the sun. No, it's based on relative position. It's based on a position with Earth, the moon, and also the sun. So now, because of the distance away, it appears that it's much larger, like the moon is much larger than the sun. Incorrect. It's called relative position. It's our position, how we view it, how we see it. So now we can come out of bond and go into retrograde or retreatism based on our position or based on how we see things. So now we have to get a different vantage point that will keep us moving forward. Why? Because we can see the benefits of what we're doing. We can see the benefits of what we've done in the past. And we can see the benefits of who's before us helping us get to that place. Listen, one thing I have always prided myself on is gathering in enough information myself to make the most informed decision. Sometimes people have ulterior motives and they can cause you to make a decision based on how they feel, what they're thinking, how they view things, based on their information. And I'm telling you, as the one has always said, you make decisions based on the information you have, not based on what you don't have, based on what you have. So now some people are limited in their information on how they see things. Sometimes it's not for you to see, as the sacred text says, seeing that you may not see and hearing that you may not hear, lest you be converted. So if you converted, you may pervert things. Why? Based on your thought processes. All right, let me check this timeline real quickly before I hit you with this other information. Listen, hit that share button once again and don't forget, put your business on the timeline. You got some information you want to share with us? Again, as we say, it's a dialogue and not a monologue. And this is our platform where we can share one another's businesses. We can promote it. We can talk about it. We can help launch it. Whatever we need to do as a family, as a people, as a human and women. Listen, we need to do that. We've got this platform. Yes, let's utilize it to the fullest. All right, let's see here. Sister Lavelle is in the house. That's right. Keep moving. Keep moving. All right, let's see here. Who said it one more time? Bobby G. Slaughter in the house. Welcome, welcome. Greetings, greetings. Thank you. Our very own Tracy Love just joined. Greetings. Listen, we appreciate you. We always appreciate our family. Every week we see you, we appreciate you, we love on you. Just as you love on us, we love on you back. All right. Put this last piece on and then we're going to go to something else to add to the pot here. Listen, I'm excited about this information. It's always a pleasure, man. I'm telling you, when prepare this information, there's so much energy is surrounding me while I'm sitting there just preparing and studying and researching. The energy is off the chain, off the cloud, off the cuff, off the Richter scale. All right, watch this. Now, notice that it is all due to the fact that the Earth moves faster in its orbit than does Mars. And this is just an example with Mars. So as we catch up to the planet, it is that is in orbit and then go beyond it, the motion appears to go through the pro, retro, and pro cycle. In other words, here we are in motion, we're in prograde. Then there are times that we may have to reduce our speed to kind of gather in some things to make sure that we're in control. Doesn't mean we're going in retrograde. Then we go to that retro appearance and then back to prograde. Listen, the best thing that you can do is gather yourself before you move forward. Make sure you have the necessary information to help you get to that next level. If not, listen, you're going to go off into a tributary, and some tributaries become so large they look like the main river, but they're just tributaries. So you got to be very careful. All right, Sister Tracy Love said, peace and prosperity, family, hailing from Fayetteville, North Carolina. I solicit your prayers and love. Yes, we send our prayers and our love to you, Sister Tracy Love. Thank you for that information. You know, you're dear to our hearts here at the Truth Session. All right. Now let's talk about something here. Again, the appearance of moving backwards is that retrograde we're talking about. But watch this. Although you may experience trauma, something else automatically happened to you because there is a change. Let's just say, for example, you're moving forward, everything is going well. All of a sudden, you got some stumbling blocks, some roadblocks, some things that come to hinder you or to try you. Well, you just don't willfully just stand there passively and let it happen to you. When those things take place, guess what? There is an initial fight. It's an innate ability. Watch this. Let me put this definition out here first before I go into it. And while I'm preparing this, we see our very own brother Anthony Love has joined us in the house. Greetings, my brother. Brother Todd Randolph also. All right. As this is populating, let me go ahead and take a quick station identification break. And wet my whistle here. Of course, this is from our very own Sister KD doing it once again. Listen, once again, as the one has always said, you never know. You might as well stay ready because you might be standing in the captain's seat. May be your time. Get an opportunity to enjoy Sister KD's creation. All right, back at you. Can you see that definition? All right, that definition from www.dictionary.com. It's the term inertia. We've dealt with this before. But let's take it a step further. Watch this. According to physics, inertia, the property of matter by which it retains the state of rest or its velocity along a straight line, so long as it is not acted upon by an external force. So now we see that according to inertia, we're actually moving in a straight line. We're moving forward unless acted upon by an external force. So now, an object at rest will remain at rest. An object in motion will what? Remain in motion unless acted upon by an external force. All right. Let me put the other part on there. This is by Britannica. All right. All right, if you can see that, go ahead and put those thumbs up for me. This was inertia according to Britannica. Watch what it says. Inertia, property of a body by virtue of which it opposes an agency that attempts to put it in motion, or if it is moving, to change the magnitude or direction of its velocity. Inertia is a passive property and does not enable a body to do anything except oppose such active agents as forces and torques. A moving body keeps moving not because because of its inertia, but only because of the absence of a force to slow it down, change its course, or speed it up. You've got to hear what this is really saying. So now, inertia takes place when an object, either that's in motion, something's trying to stop its motion, or an object that's at rest, something trying to cause it to move. So now look at this. If you're looking at the appearance of retrograde or trauma, what happens is you're in a certain motion. And so as soon as trauma hits you, when you're on a success path, you got other goals and things that you're trying to obtain, and something comes to stop you, the first thing you do is resist. See, you don't realize it because trauma hits, so you're focused on the trauma, but you don't realize inertia has taken place. Watch this. So in a nutshell, inertia, according to physics, is an object resisting a change in motion. So now when trauma comes to try you, the first thing you do is resist because you're resisting that change in motion. How many of you have ever ridden on a train or on a bus and you're riding and all of a sudden the bus is coming to a stop and you're trying to keep from falling forward if you're standing, or even if you're sitting, you're trying to keep from falling forward. So what you do is your energy automatically causes you to resist it and it pushes you back so you can stay upright. That's called inertia. Inertia is an object resisting a change in motion. So now when trauma hits you, you automatically resist that change in motion. It's when we give in to the pressures that cause us to go into retrograde. It's not the inertia. Inertia is just another force. And so automatically we throw up those defense mechanisms to keep us from falling, to keep us from stumbling, keep us from tumbling over. But it's when outside forces, outside people come to say, listen, you can't do that. You shouldn't be doing that. I don't think that's proper. I don't think that's necessary. And what they end up doing is removing your inertia force. It causes you not to put a torque on it. What is torque? Torque is nothing more than a force acted upon something with a lever arm. So now it's just like turning on a fire hose. You notice the fireman gets that large wrench so that he can put the right amount of torque on it. If he had a smaller wrench, it would be hard to do it. Now it's called force times lever arm, which gives us our torque. And so now what we try to do is keep a lever arm, keep something long enough, strong enough that we can apply the right force to get us through our trauma. And one part of it is the inertia that we carry, that we operate in. Don't let anybody take your inertia. All right, watch this. So it keeps it from speeding up. Or a moving body keeps moving, not because of its inertia, but only because of the absence of a force to slow it down, change its course, or speed it up. Again, sometimes you're moving at a pace that's comfortable for you or necessary for you to be moving at. Other things come to act upon you to get you to either move faster or slower. But you're at a pace where you're supposed to be moving or running. For example, if you're running, say, a mile run, 1,500, there's a certain pace you must keep up in order to finish. If you go out too fast, as they say, a horse that runs fast don't run long. So if you go out too fast, you can't maintain that pace. So there are times in our trauma experience that we must maintain a certain course that have been given to us, that have already been plotted for us. The groove that we've already set our feet in. And you have to, again, be careful that people don't snatch you out of that groove. Wait a minute, those shoes fit you. So why are you allowing somebody else to take you out of it? Why? Sometimes they want to be in those shoes. Be careful with that as well. All right, watch this. Now let's talk about something to kind of tie all this in. We talked about the trauma. We talked about the inertia. We talked about retrograde. Let's talk about retrofit. Let's talk about retrofit. And I'm just about done with you here. All right, let me read this comment. Brother JP put out here for us. Yes, sir. It's a formula that Brother JP put out here based on what I was saying. He says, a practical way to calculate the magnitude of the torque is to first determine the lever arm. There it is. And then multiply it times the applied force. That's it. Force times lever arm. The lever arm is the perpendicular distance from the axis of rotation to the line of action of the force and magnitude of the torque, as in the symbol tau, N times M. So force times lever arm. Thank you, Brother JP. Right in your eye gates and in your ear gates. Yes. All right, watch this. Retrofit. To modify equipment in airplanes, automobiles, a factory, etc., that is already in service using parts developed or made available after the time of the original manufacture. So let's think about this. Nothing new happened. Things have been added to enhance you. Things have been added for aesthetics. Not only that, for security, for integrity. So it says here, as in to modify equipment in airplanes, automobiles, a factory, etc., that is already in service using parts developed or made available after the time of the original manufacture. So now we're in a place where we've already been manufactured. We have already created a flow for ourselves. And then something comes along to disrupt that. So now we've got a retrofit. So now we have to take the appearance of retrograde, of going backwards, now gathering the right information, use that information to retrofit where we already are, and then move forward. It's all about the language. It's about the information that you gather in that will help you through your traumatic experiences. So now the definition, part 2 says to install, fit, or adapt a device or system for use for something older. 3, of new or modified parts, equipment, etc. To retrofit or to fit into or onto existing equipment. In other words, I'm upgrading. So you've got to constantly upgrade to fit the scheme of things. You can't stay in an antique way of thinking. To replace existing parts, equipment, etc., with updated parts or systems. So now we see we are going from a traumatic experience, from retrograde to retrofit. From retrograde to retrofit. In other words, from being a retreatist, from retreatism because of our circumstances to moving forward. Wait a minute. Something knocked me back on my heels, but I got the right people around me, the right information so that I can retrofit myself so that I can move forward. It may be a word. It may be a conversation. It may be a counseling session. It may be a session where we're just kicking it, just you and I, we're just talking. But the energy is so heavy that it makes us forget about what we've dealt with. In other words, sometimes it overshadows the problem that we might be dealing with. The energy will destroy it. And I'm not telling you religiously just have all this high moving, free radical electrons all over the place and things happen. No, I'm saying our presence, our energy can cause a thing to dissipate or dematerialize or to go away. Why? Based on what we carry, based on the confidence that we have, the knowing. I understand who I am. I don't go places feeling inferior to people, feeling inferior to our counterparts because of who they are, what they may have. No, I understand who I am. I know how to go in. I know how to come out. But you can't intimidate me because of who you are. It won't happen. Why? Listen, I've retrofitted myself. I've downloaded the information. I've gotten enough from the one where I know how to place myself in a position where I can go where I need to go, do what I need to do, and have the confidence when I'm doing it. Being retrofitted. Watch this. Now, so we're talking about, again, retrofit. So let's look at something here, and I'm going one other place, and we'll put a pin there. Now, look at this diagram. I want to show you this diagram. I'll step aside here. So now, this happens all the time in construction. So I want to put this in your eye gates here. If you look at this house on the left, it says before. The material or the face of the house has gotten old. Sometimes you have to redo the siding. Sometimes you've just got to do complete tuck pointing with your bricks. Make sure everything is flush to the face of the building. So this is the before. Now what happened was things were prepared, or the material was prepared, brought here, and it upgraded the system. Measurements were taken. If you notice, this window here is a different look than the window over here. Even the doors. And then at this end, here's a set of old windows, but over here you got a set of new windows. So things have been retrofitted. So now we've upgraded our information. You can't stay with information that, we dealt with back in 1975. It's antiquated information. Why? Because we evolve, we revolve, and information is released in time. Remember that. So now here is a new look because of retrofitting, the board before and afterwards. Now, let me draw your attention below here. It says cable supports keep road beds from separating at joints. So now what you see here, I'm going to start on this end. This is actually a highway, an elevated highway. Here's a road. Okay, this is what you see here. Right here, you see the original column. Have the grout in between, connecting the cement or the concrete and the steel casing. So now, this is the column that's keeping this road up. It's all the way down. Now, over here we see it says old column, vertical rods and 1/2 inch steel hoops on the 12-inch centers. This what happens if an earthquake or pressure hits it. During quake, it says during quake, column collapses under lateral motion. In other words, when the pressures hit it, it begins to expand and collapse. Doesn't have the right material, doesn't have the right information, so it begins to collapse. Notice the rods around it was just in a circular manner. Now, let's look at the retrofit. Upgraded information. It says new column, continuous 3/4 inch steel, spirals on 3-inch centers, support vertical rods. So now look at these vertical rods. Vertical rods, concrete column, but notice the rods around it are in a spiraling position rather than a circular position. The circular position, once the pressure hits it, it causes it to expand. So there's no more integrity or security. Here we see it's spiraling. Well, why is it in a spiraling manner? To keep you from spiraling out of control. That's the symbolism. So if you notice, the force acting on it is not outward. It's in a spiral manner. So now when that pressure hits it to come out, it's not forcing those rods to go outward. Why? Because it's being secured in a spiral manner. In other words, the force is being dropped down. So now all this pressure that's hitting you, you have the ability to sit within yourself, take that energy, distribute it, and cause it to go down to the base. Now at the base, you've got these footings and these pilings. They're set below the surface, underneath the casing, to give it its integrity, its structure, to hold it up. That's what this information is doing for you. It's causing you to retrofit yourself, taking you out of a place of retrograde or retreatism, and it's retrofitting you, causing you to have a different set of integrity or structure so that you don't spiral out of control. Now they've been upgrading these highways and throughways and passages to keep them from coming out of bond. There it is, coming out of bond with its connecting parts, so that the structural don't separate while all this pressure, while all these cars are going over it in trucks. They will begin to separate. Because of upgrading technology, now the integrity is intact. But watch this. It was completed, brought to the site, retrofitted, put in, and caused the rest of the territory to remain intact. I have to go real quickly, and we're going to get out of here. To the sacred text, I want to incorporate this in because there's some information that actually connects to what we're doing here. And again, I'm not trying to introduce the sacred text to save anyone, to convert you or anything, but the information has relevance. It has relevance, and it's going to explain exactly what we've been talking about when it comes to retrofit and how things have been created for you to benefit from. All right. Watch this. This is very, very, very powerful here. Now, 1 Kings 5, 15 through 18. Watch what it says here. And Solomon had 70,010 that bear burdens, and 80,000 hewers in the mountains. Wait a minute. It said hewers. In other words, the hew man, the hew woman, fit for building, fit for integrity. Watch this. Beside the chief of Solomon's officers, which were over the work, 3,300, and ruled over the people that wrought in this work. In other words, doing the construction, the building, the connecting. Watch what it says here. And the Malik, or the king, commanded. Everybody say the king commanded. Real quickly, put on the timeline, the king commanded. Let me put it on here. The king commanded, or the one commanded. Watch this. And they brought great stones, costly stones, and huge stones. There it is again, to lay the foundation to the house. And Solomon's builders and Hiram's builders did hew them. There we go again. And the stone squarers, so they prepared timber and the stones to build the house. Oh my goodness. Watch this. Solomon's builders, Hiram's builders, they hewed stones in a different location. They brought it to the site, set it in place, and began to build the temple. What were they doing? Retrofitting. They hewed the stone. They cut them to specifications in another location. It might have been at the factory. It might have been at the office. It might have been there in their yard. It might have been in their place of meditation. It might have been in their place in their office. When the one or myself was sitting at our desks, sitting in our rooms, in our quiet place, getting this information. What are we doing? We're hewing stones. We're cutting information. We're putting it in a place where we can retrofit it, bring it to you, set it in place so that you may be healed, so that you may be made whole, so that you can come out of a place of retrograde or retreatism, so that you can go into a place of confidence. Why? Because we cut it in another location. We cut it to specifications based on what we've seen, based on what we've heard, based on what we've studied, how everything has connected, the common thread. So Hiram's builders, the hewers, cut it, fashioned it, got it prepared for you, got you ready for the truth session. When the truth session arrived, listen, we began to build. Listen, we went from trauma, from retrograde to retrofit, tying these things all together. Listen. This is a powerful time to retrofit yourself. A powerful time that you may gather in this information, do what needs to be done so that you don't go into that place of retrograde. I'm not talking about going back, gathering in the necessary tools or the things that you must gather in to move forward. I'm talking about going backwards in life, going backwards in your healing, going backwards in your deliverance. Listen, trauma from retrograde to retrofit. Let me check the timeline here, and we're going to go ahead and get out of here for the day. We've held you long enough, and we appreciate your time. We appreciate your efforts. your comments. All right, here, Pastor Hauser said, let's see. Come on, help us break through. Help us break it all down and make it plain. I feel everything you're prepared for us or you're talking about. Thank you, Pastor Hauser. Let's see here. Thank you all for placing on the timeline, and the king commanded. The king commanded. Yes. All right. Elder Prophet, let's see. Brother JP just informed me. Let me see if I could. There he is. It says, Shalom Alaikum, or Shalom family, and GI listening and receiving. Go forth from high, master teacher. Toda indeed. Bless your prophet. All right, let's go down here. I see Sister Shakisha Love was watching. I'm just picking it up here on my phone. Didn't have it here on my laptop. It shut down and did what they wanted to do, but we know how to wrestle it down. All right. Listen, with extended grateful gratitude, we say thank you for being a part of the Truth Session today, for gathering in this information, your comments, your thoughts, your energy, your support, your love, all that you render unto us. Listen, we appreciate it. We gather it in. We embrace it. We hold it. We strengthen ourselves in hopes that you would also strengthen yourself as you hear this information and connect with one another. Listen, as always, hold what you got. Ponder over it. Muse over it. And as always, as the one tells us, I need you to govern yourself accordingly with this information. Listen, until next time, until the one graces you with his presence. Shalom Alaikum. Mishbrikah.